Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. I'm going to give it just 30 seconds to a minute for others to join. Okay, we'll get started. Unfortunately, I am not on camera just yet because I am having some technical difficulties, but I hope to join you on camera soon. Good afternoon. This is Committee Chair Kalila Slater Harrington. I'd like to welcome you all to the November 11th meeting of the Teaching and Learning Committee. If you have not done so, please mute your phone. Anyone who does not mute their phone may be muted by the call moderator or removed from the call. Additionally, please turn your camera off if you are not a board member or the CEO and her staff. I will now read a roll call of the board to identify who is present. Please identify yourself first before speaking for the record. Commissioner Chicas Guzman.
Commissioner Chicas Guzman present. Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome. All righty. Commissioner Kenyatta Bay. Okay, I'm sure he'll be joining us later. Commissioner Redding Lallinger.
Commissioner Redding Lallinger present. Good afternoon, everyone.
You made it. Welcome. Okay. And Commissioner Woodruff. All righty. I am present. Although we don't have any public comment for today, I will go over our direction for public comment quickly before we jump into our agenda. Members of the public who would like to provide comment to this committee can do so by written or pre-recorded testimony. Please submit your written testimony or your pre-recorded video the day before the committee meeting. Up to 5 individuals will be given the opportunity to comment to the teaching and learning committees, and speakers will have 3 minutes to do so. All public comment should address teaching and learning related issues. Individuals or groups interested in providing comment to the committee may sign up by emailing the board office or calling the board office. You may also call the board office at 443-642-4095 with any questions that you have about this procedure. All right, finally, the chat function during our virtual meeting will not be used as a tool for gathering feedback or answering questions from the public. If you have follow-up questions or feedback to provide to the board, email or call the board office and staff will provide a response. Now that all of that housekeeping is complete, I'll start off the meeting and just want to recognize our veterans. Today is Veterans Day, and just want to recognize the dedication and commitment and sacrifice that our veterans make in service to each one of us and to our country. So thank you. If we have any veterans on the call today, but thank you more generally to all veterans. We have many in our teaching workforce who have transitioned into education from military service And it doesn't surprise me. They've chosen a lifetime of service, whether it's on the field or in a classroom. Thank you. All right, we're going to move to our first agenda item, which I do believe is our presentation on special ed. There's my friend. Hi, Lori Lynn.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you on this little brisk day that we have
Yes.
happening here? I definitely
Brisk
feel
is
like we've
right.
changed to winter. So good afternoon. So let me pull up our deck here and then we can get started. Can you see the deck?
I can, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to share this update. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Lori Lynn Sutton, and I serve in the role of Executive Director for our Office of Special Education. Joining me today are several of my colleagues and partners in this work. I definitely do not do it alone. And as we move through the presentation, they will introduce themselves and speak to their respective areas. So before we go into our agenda, I did want to ground us in the why this work matters. So you will see on the slide our board strategic priorities, and those priorities that are outlined in yellow or marigold are priorities that we believe directly relate to the work of special education. So as you can see, this work directly advances the board strategic priorities by really expanding equitable access to our high quality instruction and high quality instructional materials, improving post-secondary readiness, strengthening educator capacity, and aligning our resources to student needs. So I hope as we go through this presentation, you will see that direct alignment to these priorities. So with these priorities in mind, here is how the presentation today will flow. So we are going to begin with an overview of our program and the landscape. We will review our enrollment and performance data. We're going to also look at our state performance plan indicators at a high level and discuss some bright spots, but also acknowledge some areas for growth. And then we will also highlight our work we will look at our priorities, and our ongoing improvement work. And then we'll also highlight the work that's happening across early learning. We'll look at our specially designed instruction, and then we'll conclude with secondary transition before we open it up for questions. So I'm excited about this agenda, and it is a packed agenda for today. So to frame this work, I think it's important to reaffirm our mission and our vision. So you can see here our mission and vision for the Office of Special Education, and it does directly support our board commitment around educational equity by ensuring students with disabilities are not only included, but empowered. And I love that word, empowered, to succeed academically and also prepared for meaningful post-secondary opportunities. So I want to ground us today in that mission and vision. So with that vision established, I'd also like to share how we deliver our services. You may have seen this slide before, but this is our continuum of services with our least restrictive services on the far left-hand side. So our LREA services, where students that are served in LREA are inside general education for 80% or more of their time. And you will see our most restrictive, which is our LREG, which are non-public placements to your far right. So this continuum ensures that students receive the right supports in the right environment. And we are constantly referring and relating back to this continuum as we are having conversations about services and supports for our students. And our emphasis is really on strengthening the inclusive instruction so students can succeed in their least restrictive setting. So we really want students to also be served in those settings that you see to your left. But we also want to make sure we're still maintaining that high quality citywide programming for students with more intensive needs. And you'll see in the next slide what that programming looks like. So within this continuum, our citywide program serves students who require specialized instructional models. So as you can see, we offer a range of citywide programs designed to meet specialized student needs. And our commitment is across all of these settings to ensure that they are supported in the least restrictive environment. We do have some students that may actually access some supports in our citywide programs while still being served in a different LRE. For example, we have some students that may need some of the services or some of the supports that may be in a Pride program, but still being served in their least restrictive environment. We want to make sure that we're continuing to strengthen our practices, our inclusive practices, central to our long-term system design. And I'm going to talk about some of the work that we are doing around that in the upcoming slides. So as I shared in my opening, I definitely do not do this work alone. So this work is not done just by the Office of Special Education alone. And you will see on this slide some of that cross-office collaboration that happens on a regular basis to really work to improve outcomes for students. So as you can see, this is really collective work. Improving our outcomes for students with disabilities really depends on strong alignment between special education, early learning, teaching and learning, secondary success. We partner a lot with our virtual learning and instructional technology office, as well as our Office of Achievement and Accountability. There are other offices that are not highlighted on this slide. However, I can assure you that it goes beyond what you see here. And what we're really working to do is together to really build consistent expectations, coherent support, and smooth transitions as students progress through each grade level. So it's really important that this cross-office collaboration works and that we're in sync with each other as we are thinking about how we serve our students across the continuum. So next, I want to share some data. So I want to be able to connect some of our special education data with some of the priorities that you're going to see in the upcoming slides and the work that members of our team and other teams are doing. So here on this slide, you will see our data from our 24-25 school year, where we served over 11,700 students, so 11,772 students, which represents 15.5% of our total enrollment. We did see an increase of 214 students from the prior year. However, to the right, you will see that our enrollment really has remained steady right around that 15% over time, even from school year 2021. You'll see a little bit of a dip in 21-22 and 22-23, but again, it's still, you know, I'm a math person, you round up, right? It's still right around that 15%. However, that is consistently above the Maryland state average, which is the teal blue line below, which is around 13.8%. What you'll also see is that we do have some overrepresentation in some of our racial and ethnic groups, including our Black and African American students. But we also do have some underrepresentation in special education for our Hispanics and white students. I will talk a little bit more about the overrepresentation that comes up as far as our state performance plan indicators, but I did want to ground us in the data. Oops, I'm sorry. All right, so where we are heavily focused is around inclusion. And so this slide shows some data as far as inclusion in the 24-25 school year. And what you will notice is that we have seen gradual improvements in the percentage of students being served in LREA or general ed settings with support. So for the 24-25 school year, we were at 63.6%, which is an increase over prior years. So you will see there has been an incremental increase from the data that you see from school year 2021 to 24-25. And although we are demonstrating some growth, we have to recognize that there's still a pretty large gap between our LRE A and our LRE C rates, as well as our MSDE targets. But what I did want to highlight and did want to call out is we do see some promising inclusion outcomes, especially in grades 1 to 3, where they are meeting and actually exceeding that MSDE LRE A target of 71.8%. You'll see that in the graph, or the bar graph on the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. We also do see and observe a decrease in those later grades, which highlights just an opportunity for us to really strengthen and sustain inclusive practices as students move through the system and through matriculate through the grades. So inclusive settings drive stronger growth for students with disabilities. That is a headline. And our data, I do believe our data makes us clear that students with disabilities who do learn in inclusive settings show stronger academic growth, both in ELA and math, across multiple grade levels. So what you're going to see in this slide, we're talking about our student growth percentiles, and you'll see it's especially evident in math in grades 4 to 5 and ELA in grades 6 to 8, where you'll see students that are being served in our LREA, which is our least restrictive environment, are growing in rates much closer to the overall student population, where while we see our students in the more restrictive settings not experiencing that same level of progress. And again, you can see that for both ELA, grades 4 to 5 and 6 to 8, as well as in math, grades 4 to 5, 6 to 8. All right, so we also do continue to see some steady improvement in our ELA proficiency among students with disabilities and in math. However, in math, our improvement really tends to track more closely to statewide patterns. So you'll see that in the data on the right-hand side of the slide. So we know we still have work to do. The upward trajectory is encouraging. So we do see that upward trajectory, especially when we are looking at MCAP ELA from 22-23 to last year. It was an increase of 2.3%. But we also know, and this is just repeating what I just said, is that we are really encouraged by the increase we are seeing where schools are showing more, where schools are showing inclusive practices that are stronger and that are more consistent. We are seeing that show up in the data. I referenced a few slides ago our state performance plan indicators. So just to give a little background, MSDE developed a state performance plan indicators that really drive instruction and impact student outcomes. Each year, city schools and all schools across the state, they receive an annual performance report that shows our progress on compliance and performance indicators for students with disabilities. So what you will see are you're going to see some bright spots, some on the rise, which means we've shown improvement, but we still haven't met our target. And then we also have room for growth. So we see that our compliance indicators really remain strong, particularly in in the area of transition planning, data accuracy, and as well as assessment participation. We're also seeing some progress. So these are the on the rise indicators in reductions in disproportionality in several categories, as well as strengthening monitoring systems and early signs of academic improvement, both in early learning as well as in middle grade math. But at the same time, we continue to have work to do, that room for growth, and especially around our graduation rates, our dropout post-secondary outcomes, as well as persistent disproportionality in some areas. And that is addressed through our CCEIS plan. So now I'm going to transition into priorities and strategies, which is the meat of the presentation, which I'm really excited about. So with the data I shared, it really does lead to what our key levers for improvement are. And I believe that they're pretty clear. Inclusive instructional practices, also thinking about how we can reimagine our central office team to be more student-centered, school-centered, and service-oriented, improve how we can allocate flexible resources such as transportation and additional adult support for students, or what is currently known as one-to-one aids, and how we can strengthen professional learning to improve IEP quality and instructional alignment. The one thing I do want to share around the targeted professional learning in that area is we had a very robust professional learning series and opportunities for our teachers, our school leaders, our para-educators, our IEP chairs this summer that was highly attended, and the feedback was really great and really positive, and we're asking for more. So we have been able to continue that work this year, and we have monthly IEP chair meetings, as well as for our new citywide programs, our new teachers in our citywide programs. We are able to work with them a half a day a month to really continue that professional learning and work that started this summer. So we're really excited about that. It was also the inaugural citywide professional learning opportunity for our citywide programs, where we had 50 teachers and 50 paraeducators learning side by side over a course of 4 days. And again, that was really well received. And we are looking forward to continuing that work this school year. So what we learned from the data directly really informs our priorities. And each of our priorities is mapped to one of the key improvement levers in the previous slide, which really will ensure our work is coherent and sustainable. So here you will see our 3 special education priorities. That doesn't mean we don't have others, but these are the 3 that we're focusing on. The first is around advancing and strengthening inclusive practices. You will see that we have a strategy. So we are partnering with Blue Engine to build a shared district vision of inclusion and to support high quality co-teaching. So this is going to include inclusion and co-teaching toolkit. Director Latoya Lewis will touch on this when she shares in a little bit, and as well as professional learning for school leaders to ensure consistent implementation. And we've heard that feedback from school leaders that they also want that professional learning and understanding to be able to support the programs, the students, and the teachers. We are looking at writing high quality IEPs. So we have started implementing a goal writing tool, which is called Goalbook, really to support strong goal writing and progress monitoring. We began this year with launching at 47 schools, and our goal is to expand district-wide in school year 26-27 with ongoing training and coaching for IEP chairs and for educators. And also building instructional expertise. I shared with you a little bit about some of the professional learning we offered over the summer, but we're really looking to provide ongoing targeted professional learning across all roles, across our IEP chairs, our special educators, our paraeducators, our general educators, our school leaders, really focused on inclusive instructional practices, science of reading, disability awareness training, as well as effective co-planning and co-teaching. So we're excited about the continuation of those opportunities. So additionally, to help us with this, we have continued a partnership that began last year with Education Resource Strategies. So Education Resource Strategies did an analysis of special education funding and really highlighted and brought to life some of the work and some of the areas for improvement that we could continue to dive deeper in and work on for this year. So we are partnering with Education Resource Strategies to really refine our service models and staffing structures. The goal is to ensure that students receive the right services in the right setting, supported by the right expertise. That is the end goal for all of the work that we're doing. We also want to ensure that we're providing schools with more predictable and responsive support from the Office of Special Education. So we have a core team that is comprised of various stakeholders. We also have the focus groups of various stakeholders that are really informing the work. And our goal is to have some recommendations by the end of 2025 to lead us into some of that improvement and change management that we could do for next year and long term. So this work does include defining service delivery models, developing staffing and scheduling prototypes, looking at how we align funding to school and student needs, and also reimagining the Office of Special Ed to operate more collaboratively. And again, this is long-term. There are some recommendations that we are hoping may be considered for next school year, but this is really system-level redesign work focused on both sustainability and coherence. And finally, before I turn it over to one of my colleagues, I did want to share just a little bit about our extended school year. So this past summer, ESY served, you'll see, almost 1,800 students across 31 sites. Where we did see the strongest student engagement, it really occurred where we saw sites that had both instruction and enrichment that were integrated, and particularly at our Summer Arts for Learning location. So that was a partnership that we began 2 years ago with 2 sites. This past summer, we expanded it to 4 sites, and we really did see the benefits for our students. But what we did notice was that running 31 sites, which includes 4 separate public day schools, really spread capacity thin. And we found that our site leads who were really encouraged and to support our teachers to ensure that there was good instruction and that programming was of high quality. We're really pulled into operational tasks rather than instructional leadership tasks because of the way that the program was designed. We also found that our related service providers that were providing services over the summer, we're doing a lot of traveling between sites, and it really wasn't benefiting students nor maximizing the use of our resources. So we are looking to redesign ESY for summer 26. Our goal is to shift to fewer high quality ESY sites with centralized logistics support. So we're looking at what are the areas in our city where there is the greatest need, so we can put more students together, provide more enrichment opportunities, as well as provide a stronger focus on implementing IEP services with fidelity and also adding some fun to their summer programming. So with that, I have the pleasure of turning it over to Crystal Francis, who is the Executive Director for Early Learning.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Lori Lynn. I am Crystal Francis. I'm the Executive Director of Early Learning, and that is all things birth through 5 for city schools. Next slide. So first, we just wanted to highlight the enrollment for our students with disabilities who are within our early learning programs. As we have shared in the past, we have continued to see a really sharp increase in the number of students over the last several years, really coming back from the pandemic. So that programmatic enrollment has continued to grow by about 15%. And then here you will see the breakdown of the disability distribution with students having developmental delay, speech, and then autism. Next slide. We wanted to highlight the priorities within early learning. So some of the things that we wanted to work on high level were just quality assurance of our programs, professional learning and instructional support, and then parent and community partnerships. Under quality assurance, we have a team of folks who are going out into our classrooms 2 times a month to check in on instruction, check in on students, to see just how classrooms are moving and flowing. We created an instructional coaching tool to accompany these staff members as they're going out into classrooms. We are doing some internal audits and reviews on IEPs just to ensure that we are kind of following along and writing really high quality IEPs. And we have created our own internal STAT process, which is essentially a monthly meeting where we are looking at all of the data around our early learning programs, how many students we have, what's progress is looking like, because we want to ensure that we are monitoring on a regular basis. As far as professional learning and instructional support, we created an early learning guidebook that all of our special ed teachers received. Our principals have copies. We even shared it with our general educators because it's a really great grounding tool to really help folks really think about all of the components of what goes into being a really great and high quality special educator. We did an early learning boot camp this summer. And this year we instituted bi-monthly meetings with our principals of our early learning citywide programs and the IEP chairs of those programs as well. And finally, in parent and community partnerships, in early learning, we can't do anything without our parents because our children are obviously very, very young. And many of our parents are really at the beginning stages of sometimes the identification process with their children. So it's really important for us that not only are we serving our littles when they come into our classrooms, but that we are also really making sure that we are providing lots of information and outreach to parents. So really want to increase the parent education and training that we're doing so that we can really be a resource to families. We continue to have partnerships with the Baltimore City Head Start Collaborative and the Baltimore City Health Department, who is the lead agency for the Baltimore Infants and Toddlers program. Next slide. So this is the cover of our early learning guidebook that we were really, really proud to have developed. And so this year we actually did kind of our inaugural early learning summer boot camp. So we had 70 teachers and paraeducators in attendance. We were very excited to have this number of folks who came out in the summertime. This is before they had to return to school. So we were just so happy to be able to get an extra week of really deep learning with them, to be able to go over so many of the topics that that we want to see within our high quality programs and classrooms. So we're hoping to be able to continue this with different PLCs throughout the school year. Next slide. Finally, we just wanted to highlight some of the work that our team does in early learning. I think, again, we're one of the very unique offices within this district and even within the state, and that we have our general education and our special education are all combined into one office. So because we are all together, we are able to really follow lots of our students kind of either in that general ed pathway as they move into special ed or vice versa. So our team offers a level of universal classroom support to all of our pre-K classrooms. Again, ensuring that there's just high quality curriculum implementation is occurring throughout all of those, throughout every classroom that we have. We also do a number of citywide supports. So when there are students who might be demonstrating some concerns, or if teachers might have a concern about a child, they're able to come out there and to provide some additional consultative models for them, or to provide some additional information. And then if we do have students who do need to kind of go through that IEP process, we're able to really walk them through that. And then again, we have our citywide early learning citywide programs and providing a level of support to those classrooms, checking in on them very frequently, checking in with those teachers and those paraeducators to really ensure that we're implementing high quality instruction for them as well. And so I will pass it to my colleague, Latoya List.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Latoya Lewis, Director of Specially Designed Instruction. Next slide, please. So specially designed instruction is really looking at how we adapt the content, what we're teaching our students, the delivery of like who, where, and the frequency of that instruction, and the method or how, the evidence-based strategies that we're using to make sure that our student disabilities have access to the core curriculum. So our mission for SDI is really to empower educators across the district with the knowledge and skills that they need to make sure that they're supporting high quality individualized instruction for our students. Next slide, please. So we outlined just some key levers for improvement currently for SDI. The first area being our district-wide professional learning, and we really did a big push around resetting what SDI means in practice for our educators. And we also collaborated with our other content areas to make sure that we are having considerations for all students as we're planning our PL throughout the district. My next area is teacher development. So we have already begun one professional learning community, which has about 20 teacher fellows who are looking at a literacy intervention for grades 3 through 5. Then we're going to be moving in this January to a math intervention for students in grades 6 through 8. And then also working with a few educators to make sure that we are planning out clearly how students on the alternate framework will be accessing the core curriculum. The next area is how we provide guidance around practice and procedures to our schools, our school leaders, and our educators. We've looked at providing clearer guidance for, as I mentioned before, around alternate framework and providing access to the core curriculum for those students. We've looked at closely multi-grade self-contained classrooms and providing guidance when it comes to if there happens to be more than one grade of students being serviced in one classroom, how a teacher provides quality education in that circumstance. And as Lori mentioned before, we are working with Blue Engine to develop a shared, clear district vision for inclusion. And then also with that, developing an inclusive instruction toolkit for schools and educators so they're able to work through collaborative routines, what it means to have an inclusive school environment, what it means to coach teachers through providing inclusive education to students. And then our last area on this slide here is consulting and collaboration. And again, this year, we did a lot of work with the other content areas, making sure that we are providing an inclusive learning environment for our educators. So now they are now learning side by side when it comes to math, literacy, science, and social studies, as well as gaining their specified training in SDI or ELD, whatever the need may be. Thank you, and I'm passing it on to, I believe it's Director Eric.
We okay? Is Eric
Good
on the
afternoon. I'm so sorry. I apologize for the delay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eric Roberts, Director of Post-Secondary Success, and I'm here to talk about the cross-office collaboration with secondary transition, preparing our students with disabilities for life after high school. Next slide, please. So our mission is to empower students with disabilities across the continuum to confidently transition from school to adulthood. Excuse me one second. With the skills, opportunities, and supports needed to thrive in their chosen paths. So our vision is to empower students with disabilities to be prepared for high school, college, career by fostering collaboration among schools, families, and community partners. We ensure that every IEP transition plan is 100% compliant, student-centered, and outcome-driven, promoting access to inclusive job development and employable skills, independent living, and lifelong learning opportunities. Next slide, please. So here are our key priorities: professional learning and training. And so we facilitate monthly trainings for our transition monitors and our IEP chairs. We develop and deliver training series for school counselors and post-secondary advisors. We work on age-appropriate transition programming. We oversee transition programs at BCCC, Coppin, and University of Maryland in Baltimore for students with disabilities in ages 18 to 21. We provide community-based experiential learning and career development. And then in terms of quality assurance and compliance, we conduct tiered site visits, so 1 to 3 per month, to ensure 100% compliance. We then verify all exiting students with disabilities that they meet Maryland certification of program completion, which we refer to as MCOPSI endorsement requirements. And then I'm super proud of our job development, and this is where we build and sustain partnerships for job development and internship opportunities. We host an annual Spring Transition Expo with 40 or more agencies for students with disabilities and families. Next slide. And so I'll turn it over to,
Yep. Thank you, Director Roberts. So I just wanted to close before we open it up for questions and just acknowledge that we are seeing some meaningful progress in many of the areas. But at the same time, we do recognize that we do have some gaps that remain, and we are addressing them through the priorities, the system level redesign work that I shared, targeted professional learning, and really looking at how we can improve resource alignment to best serve our students with disabilities. And I just wanted to end by saying I am deeply grateful, first of all, for this opportunity to share our work, but also the continued partnership that we have with our school leaders and teachers, our community partners, our families, because we are all in this together and we do the work together. So I wanted to say thank you. And at this time, I will open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Lori Lynn and team. I appreciate such a thorough presentation. As always, I'd like to open it up. Before I do, I want to recognize, I think my colleague and fellow commissioner, Commissioner Scott Woodruff, joined the call. Commissioner, are you here?
I am. Thank you.
Oh, great. Just wanted to recognize that you had joined us. Do you have any questions?
Let me look through my notes. I think I wrote down something on slide 12, so I'll look through my notes and come back to that.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other commissioners with questions, and then I'll come back to you.
I do have some
Okay.
questions, but I'm happy to defer to others first.
Nope, you go right ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Wow.
And the first set of questions, Director Sutton, thanks again for the presentation. I had one question just on the data. In the first few slides, you presented some of the SGP data, you presented proficiency comparisons across the state, but I'm curious, do you have data on SGP for students with disabilities across the state, and how does that compare? In other words, I'm trying to figure out how we're moving our kids, our students with disabilities, relative to how much other districts across the state are moving them. Do you have some of that data?
So I don't have it today, but it is data that I can work with our partners in OAA to take a look at to see what's available, and I can share that with you if that works.
That'd be based on, you know, what you know about how we're doing in city schools relative to other districts, about what we're likely to see. Do you think we're moving our kids about on average as much as other districts, or specifically our students with disabilities, less, more? What do you sort of think that we would see from that data?
So I think that we are in line with the districts that are like us. So the larger urban districts across the state. I have not seen, it has not, been shared to me that we are, much farther behind as far as where we are as far as our SGP data. But again, I can do a deeper dive with our Office of Achievement and Accountability and get that back to you to take a look at. And then if you would, like to ask other questions, we can do that at that point.
That sounds great. Thanks. I'm fine with that being submitted later. And some of these other questions you may fit in the same category as submitting later, just because I'm curious to dig in. And the reason I'm asking is because, I think the proficiency rates aren't always comparing apples to apples. As you noted, there are districts that are similar to ours, ones that are different. And SGP just does a nice job of showing us where students who perform similarly are moving. That's the whole point of it. So, so yes, I would really appreciate that data. My second set of questions is just around the sort of distribution of students within our district. So do you know what the sort of range is in terms of students with the percentage of students with disabilities in terms of like our schools with the lowest percentage versus our schools with the highest percentage? What's the sort of range that we would see across schools within city schools?
So as far as the percentage of students with disabilities at a particular school? Is that what your question is? I just want to clarify. I'm sorry, I can't hear you if.
Yeah, we may have lost him. I'm not sure if he's able to talk now.
So if the question is if we can provide the data for.
I'm cutting out a little.
No, you're fine.
Sorry. No worries. I'm cutting
I
out
just
a little
wanted to
bit.
clarify, are you asking if we have the data that takes a look at the percentage of students with disabilities that are at each school and what the range is?
So essentially, we're at about a 50% average across the district. And I'm wondering, do we have schools where we've got 25% of our students with disabilities and
Yes.
schools where we've got 5%?
Yes.
That's what I'm curious about, is what does the distribution look like across our district?
Yes, and I can actually get you that data as well. So we do take a look at what our percentage of students with disabilities is at each school level, where we do see for our select schools or criteria-based high schools, we definitely see a lower percentage of students with disabilities, and it can range where it depending too if there are schools that have citywide programs, they may have a higher percentage, but I can get you that data by school so that you can take a look at. I do believe that it can range between below 5%, as well as up to above 25%. So I think there is a pretty large range, but it is also dependent upon different pieces, which includes whether or not a school has a citywide program, and also if a school has entry criteria as well.
Of course. Yep. Thank you. That would be helpful. It's just, we'd like to see the distribution. My last question is, and this really goes across all the teams, right? Early learning, secondary support, professional learning, professional development, training is all sort of recurring as a strategy across all of these areas for how you're going to improve delivery here.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm curious, how are you all measuring success there? I think that's sort of my number critically about the PL. You investing a lot in it. How do you know if it's working? Is my question.
So I will begin, and then I'll ask my my colleagues to jump in as well. So I think one of the things that we're really excited about this year, that has been an intentional focus, is that and I believe this was mentioned, that we want to make sure that in the professional development that we are providing to our teachers, our school leaders, that our continuum of students shows up in that professional learning. So we have special educators, ELD teachers, our gifted and advanced learning teachers, our general educators, all learning side by side so that they can support all students across the continuum. We do feedback surveys from that professional learning, but we also, when we are doing site visits and observations and school walkthroughs, we should see the evidence of that professional learning when we are visiting classrooms. I don't know if someone else wants to add here. I know, Crystal, you've been focusing on this as well.
Yeah, thanks, Lori Lynn. I would say a very similar answer. Again, we have really expectations of what we want to see when we go into our classrooms. So building off of the things that we are talking about and discussing during professional development, and then really making sure that we're going back in and we're seeing those things. Additionally, this year in early learning, with the addition of bringing in our IEP chairs and our principals, sometimes they get missed when we're thinking about professional learning, or when we're thinking about what should the classroom look like. So really trying to make sure that we're kind of triangulating not just what we are saying to our teachers and to our paraeducators, but to our IEP chairs, to our principals, because they are, again, the ones who are in the buildings every single day. And so we really do count it a success when we see the things that we are discussing or talking about, our strategies, or this year we've been really into core boards for early learner. We want to make sure that we are increasing language. When we see those in classrooms and see those in classrooms being used, we kind of see that there are indicators that the things that we're talking about are manifesting in our classrooms.
I appreciate those answers. I think I would push the team a little bit just to, I think it is important to do regular walkthroughs to sort of see whether the things that are happening in classrooms are aligned with the training and support that's been given. I think I would push the team a little bit to think about what are some real sort of hard quantitative metrics that you could point to say, we've invested a ton in this PD. I'm just thinking about, for example, IEP writing is one of your priorities. And you could audit IEPs and look at how well goals are written or not, just as an example. I mean, there's so many different ways you could go, but I just think the clarity that you get when you have a set of ambitious quantitative goals that you can point to, where you can say, our PD's working because we hit X, Y, and Z targets that we didn't hit before. It makes the biggest difference. And so that's my push here. I love the walkthroughs. I love the observable things. And I'm a big proponent of quantifiable metrics that we can then, objectively say we are on track, we're meeting this, or we're not.
And
go ahead.
I appreciate that you bringing that up because one of the investments that we made this year, which was also supported by the board through our budget process, was we were able to add an additional 2 additional positions for central IEP chairs, which are doing exactly that, right? They are looking and auditing IEPs to make sure that the goals have the 5 components, that they're aligned with academics and related services. But I think another indicator that your feedback sparked was we also are regularly engaged in audits with MSDE, where they pull a sample set of students and they look at IEPs, and then we get feedback as far as how those IEPs are written, beyond compliance, but whether they make sense for a student. So those are pieces that, when you initially asked the question, I actually wasn't thinking in that way, but those are things that we are doing regularly, and have set up some systems and structures and put staff in place to do that.
Thank you for that. I'm aligned with Commissioner Redding Lallinder usually, and I am for this as well, just in terms of going back to those look-fors and realizing the investment of such great professional development and being able to quantify that. And I think we do that by, not just having the look-fors to make sure that there's evidence that the professional development was effective, but also what's the outcome of that. So I go in the classroom and I see what I'm supposed to see, and then what is the ultimate student outcome that comes of that. And I just think that that's what the commissioner was getting at. And also I think that is what is going to get traction for us to be able to work towards. So what is the long-term outcome? What is our target here that we're working towards when we do see the look-fors? Oh, he says thank you in the comments. But yes, so I'm aligned with that. I'll pause there because I do have some questions around, how we meet or exceed our MSDE targets around inclusion. Like, what's the path there to get there? And if you said it already, just please amplify it again so that we can clearly see this is how we're going to get where we need to be. But I'll pause. That's my question. But I realize that others may have questions. I see Scott Woodruff is on camera. Do you have any questions, Commissioner?
I do, but if the team wanted to respond to your question, I'm happy to wait my turn.
Okay, we'll do a response and then we'll move to Scott Woodruff next.
So, Commissioner Harrington, you're asking, how we are working towards exceeding our LRE target?
Yes.
Okay. So I do think that goes back to what we shared around our key levers for improvement, especially around the work that we are doing around the engagement with education resource strategies. So one of the things that we are looking at right now deeply is our staffing models, as well as our scheduling models for our students in LRE A, B, C, as well as our citywide programs. I do believe that work is going to lead to some recommendations that where we can better allocate resources, think about the services and supports that are happening in classrooms, the experts that are in classrooms that our students have access to, as well as thinking about how we are allocating resources to schools to better support more inclusion. So I do believe that work is going to, as well as the targeted professional learning, because what we have heard loud and clear from our school leaders and our teachers is they really need that to best support our students. I do believe that those key levers for improvements and our priorities and strategies that we talked about today, that I talked about today, as well as my colleagues, I do think is going to lead to exceeding that target. I mean, we have a ways to go. We do have a ways to go. We are below that LRE A and B target, or LRE A in particular, MSDE state target of 71.8%. But we are gradually working closer to that. And we are seeing movement within our LREs to within our for our students, that where our students are moving towards a least restrictive environment, and we are seeing less movement to a more restrictive environment. So but again, I do believe that the key levers for improvement that I shared and the strategies and priorities that we are working on will lead us to that end goal of serving our students in the least restrictive environment. Okay. I don't know if others want to add to that and if that answered your question.
I think it does answer my question. Yeah, I think it does. I think I could get into the weeds on it, but I'm going to step back because I'm very curious. Commissioner Scott Woodruff, we'll move to you.
Thank you. I have two questions here. One, just a note of, I appreciated the reflections around the extended school year and taking a step back to recognize that like a leaner program offerings are going to yield stronger results just due to bandwidth. My first question around that is like, how are you looking at narrowing the sites for next year? You were 31 last year. What are your early projections for this year? And also, if you highlighted that, forgive me. And then my second question was around The MCAT proficiency for math. The text on slide 12 notes that under math, the proficiency mirrors state improvement trends, but the city schools line is the same over the past 3 school years. And then I know the key levers are, or priorities rather, are focusing on building instructional expertise, but what is listed there is specific to reading. And so can you share a little more, either, I guess, both and about that data piece, but then also around instructional expertise or leaning in on professional learning around math specifically?
Yeah, so as far as the slide, I think believe it was slide 12 with the MCAP results, that what the slide was showing was specifically for math, that the gap that we're seeing between city schools and Maryland holistically, the gap hasn't either widened or has it gotten narrower. So we are seeing that it's mirroring that improvement trend, meaning that we're kind of going incrementally in the right direction at about the same rate. It's not saying that we are at that same rate. So I do think that might be a little misleading. So I appreciate that you brought that up, and that we do recognize that gap persists. This is also suppressed data. So, but what we were trying to show was, like, it's not widening, nor is it narrowing. So it is really mirroring how the data is moving, both at the city schools and for the state. I do appreciate you also recognizing that we talked about around professional learning. We focus more on the science of reading and literacy. I do want to acknowledge that we have a close partnership with the Department of Teaching and Learning and with the our math partners as well. And that training is happening as well for our teachers, and they are engaged in that. Matter of fact, I was just in professional learning for our school leaders, and we were talking about cycle 2, and math was presenting, and they talked about our students with disabilities and some instructional strategies within our high quality instructional materials of Reveal Math. So that is happening. I just did not call that out, particularly in this deck. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. And I think your last question, and if I getting this wrong, you were asking about ESY. So for our extended school year, we work closely with our partners in the Office of Achievement and Accountability, and we do what is called geomapping, where we take a look at where are our students across the district that would likely be eligible for extended school year services. So what we found last year was we had a high number of sites, but in those sites, we may have had 1 or 2 classrooms, right? Mm-hmm. Where other sites may have had 8 or 9 classrooms. And really, it was not efficient for resources, not only for fiscal resources, but for human resources. And what we also found was that when we had this really great partnership with SALA, with Arts for Learning, that the students that had that experience were students that were assigned to that site. So we want to change the trajectory of what we can offer students and really think about regionalizing programs. So thinking about all the parts of our city and where we see students that would likely be eligible for ESY, and place those programs close to where the need is, so that we can provide more robust programming for our students, as well as be fiscally responsible for the resources, because there are a lot of resources that go into our extended school year, including transportation, food and nutrition, provide meals for students. And the more sites that we had, the thinner those resources were spread. So that is the idea behind it. So we will continue to partner with our Office of Achievement and Accountability and use our geo-mapping process to identify where we really believe those ESY hubs or ESY sites are going to be needed during the summer, so that we can really focus our work in those areas. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And now I'm re-looking at this and I'm curious, we can kind of talk further about this at another time, but is the projection that you'll still serve the same number of students, but in a more concentrated fashion, or by reducing sites, are we also reducing the number of students who'd be able to participate?
Yep, no, the initial approach is more concentrated. So we found that also that we saw higher engagement, higher attendance, especially at the sites that had that more enrichment opportunities. And those were the sites that were more concentrated, as opposed to sites where we only had 1 or 2 classrooms and maybe 10 students. There really wasn't that opportunity to engage with peers outside of those classrooms. And we just really want to maximize our resources, but also, maximize that high quality programming we can provide for our students during the summer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Commissioner Chicas Guzman, did you have anything for us? Any questions? Okay. All righty. Well, then I think we will say another thank you for this rich presentation.
Initiatives and she's also my cousin.
Hey guys. Ashley, we can hear
Praxis help.
Hi, Ashley. We can hear you. Okay, great. We'll probably follow up with the follow-up questions, and I know you took note of Commissioner Redding Lallinger's questions, and I think all of the commissioners are interested in the responses. So thank you again, Lori Lynn. Thank you for your leadership in this space and for really thinking deeply about what the department needs to look like, but also what the work is ahead. All right, I'll move us along. I believe we have a curriculum update. Who's leading on that? Is that?
Yes, you're right. We have a curriculum update. See Joan.
Hey, Allison.
Hey. Hey, how are you? Sorry, I was like, is that the person? No,
yeah,
sorry.
I know you out for us. There she is.
There,
yeah. Hear her. Hi, Joan.
Hello. I'm not quite sure. Like
We had a compliance report.
Oh, compliance report. Thank you. Yes. I believe Casey Davis is on.
Hi,
oh, it's a compliance. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, friends.
Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you. Yes, as soon as you said curriculum review, I was like, is that me? Right. So because this our compliance report
update. Yes.
Yes. So do we need a share screen to go through that? I know you all have the report itself. I'm happy to just give the high level.
Yeah, just give us a high level because this is going, to be for a while. So.
Yep, wonderful. So the compliance report that you all have in front of you is for policy IGE curriculum. The compliance report and the compliance required for that each year is really just a reporting out of our curriculum management plan to the board. And so you do see that within that compliance report. We've provided that for school year 25-26. What I really want to highlight, though, is while that is certainly useful and in compliance, if you will, we're really excited because this year, as you well know, we are actually bringing curriculum policy IGE to the board for full review. There are a number of shifts that are happening with MSDE and their language. And so we are really looking forward to updating our curriculum policy in service of that, as well as in service of trying to articulate how we are supporting key content areas here in city schools as part of that policy, such as our fine arts work. And so, you know, the compliance report for this year is pretty standard. It just provides our management plan. But what we're really looking forward to this year is the ongoing policy work that we'll be doing with the policy committee and then the full board.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I don't see any questions from commissioners on there. There's more to come. So, all
Yes,
right.
stay tuned.
All right, I'll move us along to our procurement. Let's see.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey, Katie, how are you?
I'm all right. Can't complain. All right, so I will be presenting the procurement agenda. 2 of these items are going to be on the agenda tomorrow, and then 3 of them are going to be on the December 2nd agenda. But my name is Katie Kamenecki, and I am a contracts administrator here at City Schools. And the first item that we have is item 12.1, and this is a contract increase. The Chief Academic Officer and the Executive Director of Special Ed request the board's approval to increase the competitively bid requirements contracts with 17 vendors to provide therapeutic and non-therapeutic aid services. And this is an overall increase to the contract, including the renewal options, from $75 million to $125 million.
Sorry, I'm processing. Do any commissioners have any questions around this item? And there's 17.
I do not.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
We're ready, Katie.
Sorry. Section 12.2, the Chief Academic Officer requests the board's approval of a contract with iCivics to provide the development of social studies content for grades 6, 7, and 10, as well as associated services to provide support to students and teachers. The estimated annual amount of the contract is $615,000. And the contract term is December 3rd, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. And this includes 1 2-year renewal option.
Got it. I think we had some additional, oh, sorry. Any questions on this particular procurement? All right, seeing none. Going to move, I think we had some additional procurement items added, is that correct?
Yeah, it's these 3 items, iCivics, Odell, and Facing History and Ourselves.
Okay.
So section 12.3, the Chief Academic Officer requests the board's approval of a contract with Odell Education for materials of instruction in support of secondary courses. The estimated annual amount of the contract is $300,000, and the contract term is December 3rd, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. And this includes 1 2-year renewal option.
Got it.
Can I just, I'm sorry, my internet was cutting in and out, so I apologize if I missed this. I see two of the contracts that I reviewed in board docs, and then I think there are additional ones that were emailed to us. And then you said, Catherine, which are the ones that are appearing tomorrow? Can you just clarify which ones are coming before us tomorrow?
Yep. Therapeutic and non-therapeutic aid services and the new teacher project will be on the 11-12 agenda.
Okay.
And then iCivics, Odell, and Facing History will be on the December 2nd.
Got
Okay,
it.
great. I'll just speak for myself for iCivics, Odell, and Facing History. I have not had time to review those, and so I won't be prepared with questions for those. And then I hope I didn't miss my opportunity to ask questions on the first two. Those are the only two that I reviewed for today.
Oh, well, let's go back. We can go back and you can ask those questions. Likewise, I just saw the update, so I don't have any questions for new ones. But for the first two, go, Commissioner.
Yeah, for the therapeutic and non-therapeutic aid services, I was just sort of struck by the amount, an increase of $50 million. And I understand it looks like from having read it, this is due to an increase in the number of students requiring these services. Can we just get a little bit of a sense for what those numbers are in terms of how we landed on 50 million? What are the number of students that we are talking about? It's just it's a very large dollar amount, and so I want to make sure we're scrutinizing it appropriately.
Absolutely, Commissioner. Thank you for your question. And if Lori Lynn is on, I certainly welcome for her to chime in as well. The increase here, what you're seeing is, over the course of the past 2 years since this particular procurement has been in place, we've seen an increase in provision of aids up to more than 1,000 students having aids, which wasn't the case just a few years ago. Inclusive with that is the increased cost associated with the aids in each of the increasing years of the contract. So what we are attempting to do is have our projected services, make sure that we know what we expect to get each year, which is going to supersede the original intended contract cap. And so this is really a preventative measure. We don't expect to hit that this year. We're thinking that there's a very good chance, however, that we will run into that cap next year. So we're trying to be proactive and increase the number for the 3 traditional years of the contract. And then because there are renewal years, that is included in that as well. So it's those optional renewal years too. Again, we're just trying to be proactive to make sure that we're not hitting a procurement cap, which would then cause a stop of services for students.
Great. That's super helpful. So the 50 million is a cap, and it counts the renewals in that cap. But still, and I understand the increase in costs. I think we're seeing that across the board. 1,000 additional students with AIDS is a pretty large number. Can you give me a little bit more context for why that has happened over the last couple of years?
So it's 1,087 in total. So it's not an increase of that number. That's the total number of students. Yeah, no. It's about 10% or so of our population of students with disabilities. It's not that we've increased by that many, but over the course of the past few years, we have almost doubled as we've come back from the pandemic, and there's just been an increasing number of behavioral therapeutic aids. And Lori Lynn can probably speak to some of that.
Okay, so but just to clarify, so an increase of about 500 since the pandemic-ish. If the total is 1,000, about 500 since 2020. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. And I can get you the precise figures on that. I think since 2020, it's a bit more than that. But certainly within the past 2.5 years, we've almost doubled the population.
Okay, great. And I mean, for me, if it reflects the true need there, that's fantastic. It means we're giving a lot more support to a lot more students. It just seems like a pretty dramatic increase. So that's why I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the increase is over time, inclusive of renewal years. So again, it just makes sure that, we basically don't have a procurement cap getting in the way of service provision.
And it is a large increase. I mean, to Casey's point, it's a large increase. And to your point, Commissioner, we are looking at it very carefully, and we've convened a group who's looking at it to try to figure out what's going on, if there's better ways to serve students, because some of these supports sometimes are not the best ways to serve students. So we're trying to look at it. We're taking this seriously ourselves. There have been, well noted, a lot of changes in special ed needs of students post pandemic, and this increase is significant. So we are taking it seriously and looking at it carefully. I see Joan there.
Yep, no, and I just wanted to add, this is something that we're seeing that's not necessarily unique to Baltimore City. It's a national trend that we're seeing, particularly where younger students, we're seeing, as Casey mentioned, behavior therapeutic supports These are children who are 5, 6, 7 years old coming to us. We're seeing increased numbers of students being diagnosed with autism. There's a number of things that we are seeing in our data. And I think it has been, it's appropriate that this is coming at the same time where Lori Lynn has just been sharing the special education updates, knowing that there is some strategic work around what kinds of supports we put in place to help our schools, our teachers, and community to be able to support the young people who are coming. But there is certainly a pattern we're seeing across the nation with more students coming to us needing this level of support. And how we provision that support is a very strategic question that we have to dig into.
Thank you, Chief Perkins-Cohen and Chief Dabrowski. That is really important context. I think my thought here is I think that's going to be an eye-popping number for the board to swallow, and I think you're going to get a lot of questions. And so maybe if we can get out ahead of some of those questions, the national context, Chief Dabrowski, I found to be particularly helpful. And then I think just numbers. I think people are going to want to see the numbers. And so my suggestion is in advance of tomorrow, and we can also have some conversations with commissioners in advance of tomorrow. I just think there's going to be a lot of questions, and we might as well get out ahead of them because all this makes good sense. It's just it's a lot of money. It's a lot of it's a big increase, and I would rather get in front of it. So thank you for the context.
No, and I appreciate this. I also would just want to check, Chief Perkins-Cohen. I don't know that this is a one that has to go tomorrow. We may want more time and have this go in December so that we can do, right? I don't know that this is not one that has to go tomorrow. And I wonder if,
like it
to
does.
Commissioner Lollinger's point, we give ourselves the runway to do that work. Given, I agree, there could be some important questions for us to want to share with the whole board.
Okay, so for all the ones under the CAO, you're okay with them going in December?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. Then
Commissioner Lollinger, how does?
Yeah, I think that's right. To be fair to you all, I've looked back into it. I do see the numbers at the bottom in the 500s of the increased numbers. I still think it's just something that we'd rather take our time with. I don't think in the end there will be resistance to it, but if there's not an urgency of getting this done tomorrow, then let's take the time and make sure people understand what it is.
That's a great flag. Okay. Then let's go ahead and put it on the December 2nd agenda, and we should also make sure we bring it to exec session just to make sure to answer questions. Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
Awesome pushback, awesome consideration and context. Thank you so much for providing that and then giving us extra time and more information to process. All righty. Katie, you were reading through the three.
Do you want me to go back to iCivics or keep going with Odell?
Can you go through iCivics again? Because I think we probably lost it with that, knowing that we'll hear it today and then probably have questions for it at a future time.
Yep. So section 12.2. The Chief Academic Officer requests the board's approval of a contract with iCivics for the development of social studies content for grades 6, 7, and 10, as well as associated services to support students and teachers. The estimated annual amount of the contract is $615,000, and the contract term is December 3rd, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, and that includes one 2-year renewal option.
Okay. Thank you.
Section 12.3, the Chief Academic Officer requests the board's approval to contract with Odell Education for materials of instruction in support of secondary courses. The estimated annual amount of the contract is $300,000, and the contract term is December 3rd, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, with one 2-year renewal option.
Got it.
And then section 12.4, The Chief Academic Officer requests the board's approval to contract with Facing History and Ourselves to provide professional learning, advisory content, 11th grade world history curricular content, and associated supports. The estimated annual contract amount is $258,000. The contract term is December 3rd, 2025 through June 30th, 2028, with 1 2-year renewal option.
Got it.
And then last but not least, this is one, I guess will be the sole item tomorrow. The Chief Human Capital Officer requests the board's approval to contract with the New Teacher Project to provide the Baltimore City Teaching Residency, an alternative teacher certification program. The estimated total amount of the contract is $2,673,405, and the contract term is November 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028.
I did have questions on this one, but I don't want to jump ahead of others, Commissioner.
Oh, please.
Can you help me understand, does this include the salaries of the teacher residents, or is that separate?
It does not. The BCTR program, they call them residents, but they are full-time teachers of record who are employees of city schools, unlike the residency programs that we have with City Teaching Alliance and Teaching Well.
Okay, so the broken down budget, the estimated budget that is down here, the 682,000 in salaries, is TNTP salaries that
Yes, it's the
support
salaries.
the training, the recruitment, the training, and all of those. Okay.
Yes, and the ongoing
And then
coaching.
Chief Nielsen, help me. I really appreciated the presentation you brought to us, sort of looking at some of our teacher pathways. Can you help me very quickly put this again in context and maybe in comparison with Teach for America in terms of the cost and the number? Can you just sort of the number of teachers and the cost? Can you give me sort of a relative comparison?
Yes, so it's a little bit less expensive than Teach for America. They provide significantly fewer teachers than Teach for America does in the contract that just got approved by the board earlier this month. And the teachers that BCTR supports several groups. They have both the program that we've been running with them for 20 plus years, which is for new teachers of record who go through a summer pre-service training program and then become teachers of record who make a commitment for at least 2 years. Many of them stay with us much longer than that. And we have a number of principals who are BCTR alums. Last year, we launched a para apprenticeship program. This is for degreed paras to basically do their pre-service training while they're working as a para, and they can earn while they learn, while they do their teacher prep, and then they join that cohort as a first-year teacher of record and get 2 years of coaching support from BCTR in addition to whatever supports that their school provides for new teachers. We're seeing BCTR teachers are retained at about the same rates as other new teachers. Their evaluations look about the same as other new teachers. And we're just starting to look at the student achievement that these programs are each helping us to help our students grow and achieve.
Great. Yeah, I remember some of that, the early data. I know there's some limitations in collecting it, but I appreciate that, Chief Nielsen. Okay, thank you for putting that in context. It's helpful.
All righty. I think that is it, right, Katie? And I think that satisfies. Any other questions by any other commissioners? All right, Katie, I think that does it for us today then. All righty, our next meeting will take place on December 9th, 2025, and we will be focused on our district math goal update and our district literacy goal update. So look forward to connecting in December. Thanks, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.